Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Today, the manhunt underway for the shooter who assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk as he was speaking to college students in Utah. President Trump and others honoring him and remembering his deep faith in Jesus Christ. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also praising Kirk as a friend of Israel. And on this anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the U.S., he compares Israel's strikes on Hamas to the U.S. response to al-Qaeda. The increasing persecution of Christians in India as an amended law in one state in that country is targeting online evangelism and religious speech. And revivals on American college campuses are back. We'll bring you a look at the latest Unite Us event at the University of Oklahoma. These stories and more today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us today. It was a political assassination. That's what Utah's governor called the murder of Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist and close ally of President Trump. Kirk, who was an outspoken Christian, was shot as he spoke to college students in Utah. As Lori Johnson tells us, a manhunt is underway to find his killer.
Investigators believe the shooter, dressed in dark clothes, fired one round from a high-powered rifle from a rooftop approximately 200 yards away. Two suspects were taken into custody but later released.
That's a lot of people, Utah, tell you what.
31-year-old Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck while answering questions at an outdoor rally at Utah Valley University. Terrified students ran for cover while Kirk was whisked away to a nearby hospital where he was later pronounced dead.
You just see his neck just open up and there's just so much blood that just came out. It was horrible.
Kirk founded Turning Point USA, galvanizing Gen Z and millennial voters to the conservative cause and helping put President Trump in office. He spoke against anti-Semitism and in defense of Israel's right to defend itself in its war with Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling him a lion-hearted friend of Israel. Kirk also spoke against abortion and LGBTQ activism.
I see the angst of young people as well as the challenges facing new parents.
He told CBN's David Brody that he often put Jesus at the center of his message.
I challenge Christians to be as bold and evangelistic and persuasive as atheists are. And sometimes Christians don't.
President Trump posted a video tribute to Kirk.
He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith. And we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven.
Our nation is broken.
Utah's governor said he's praying for Kirk's family.
And that all of us will try to find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans.
Former Secret Service agent Tim Miller said Americans, especially the church, should adjust to the rise of evil acts like this one.
We're seeing every day increased levels of violence, by the way, just like Scripture said would occur. And we as believers must rise up and become people of vigilance and security. And I tell this to everybody. This is not about fear. It's about wisdom and preparation.
President Trump ordered flags to be flown at half-staff until Sunday in his honor. Congress held a moment of silence, but a request for the House to say a prayer led to a shouting match between Republicans and Democrats. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
One of the saddest days in America that I can remember in my lifetime. And just a few days ago, on September 6th, Charlie Kirk posted this on X. He said, "Jesus defeated death, so you can live." It was another testament to his amazing, strong Christian faith, which he was completely unashamed of. He will be missed. Coming up, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also remembering Charlie Kirk and defending Israel's attack on Hamas leaders in Qatar by comparing it to the U.S. response after 9/11. We'll bring you that story when we come back. back. Sorry. As the U.S. marks the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country responding to Hamas just the way America did to al-Qaeda. And Netanyahu remembered Charlie Kirk as someone who supported Israel. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story from Jerusalem.
In a post on X, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. As Israel continues to take criticism for its targeted attack on Hamas leaders gathered in Qatar on the eve of the worst attack ever on American soil, Netanyahu on Wednesday compared America's response after 9/11 to Israel's October 7th reaction.
What did America do in the wake of September 11th? It promised to hunt down the terrorists who committed this heinous crime wherever they may be. And it also passed a resolution in the Security Council of the UN 2 weeks later that said governments cannot give harbor to terrorists.
Netanyahu said Israel's strike in Qatar followed that resolution.
We acted along those lines. We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything.
He said Israel did what America did when it killed al-Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan and Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. And yet, various countries are condemning Israel.
What did they do after America took out Osama bin Laden? Did they say, oh, what a terrible thing was done to Afghanistan or to Pakistan? No, they applauded. They should applaud Israel for standing up to these same principles and carrying them out. And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.
National security expert Dr. Eyal Pinko of the Besa Center says even though Qatar is publicly condemning the attack, it's benefiting from the killing of Hamas leaders who were under the control of Iran.
Qatar really wants to have a ceasefire because of Trump administration pressure. So now it's amazing time. You can take out all Hamas leadership. This probably will accelerate the ceasefire agreement and bringing back the hostages. And they can replace immediately the Hamas leadership that will be 100% under their control without Iranian involvement.
Meanwhile, the IDF struck military targets in Yemen belonging to the Houthi regime in response to recent missile and UAV attacks launched against Israel. And in Gaza, the IDF continues to warn civilians to leave Gaza City by recorded messages, text messages, and leaflets, giving directions and including a phone number to call if Hamas is blocking their exit. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. And our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is with us now from Jerusalem. Chris, so good to see you. Well, as you know, Americans are mourning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What's been the reaction there in Israel, Chris?
Wendy, they're mourning here as well. All the people that knew him or knew about him are mourning. He was a great friend of Israel. A lot of emotions going on social media. In addition to Prime Minister Netanyahu's statement about Charlie Kirk, UN Ambassador to Danny Danon said, truth cannot be and will not be silenced. A steadfast ally of Israel, he said. Kirk was known as an outspoken defender of Israel. Ambassador Friedman, the former U.S. ambassador here to Israel, who lives here, with Charlie gone, he said there is a gaping hole in our discourse that may never be fulfilled. And this is what U.S. ambassador to Israel and a good friend of Charlie Kirk, Mike Huckabee, said that Charlie Kirk was a force of nature. He started and led a movement on campuses built on speaking truth in a rational and respectful manner. He was a threat to those who hate God and the USA. He was murdered for it. His life made us all richer. His death made us all poorer. And even now on the Temple Mount, there was some Jews that went up and other organizations they organized an ascent up to the Temple Mount in Charlie Kirk's honor.
Yeah, Kristen, we know a lot of people are saying that he was martyred for his faith and for his conservative values. And of course, we know the saying, you know, where the blood of the martyrs grows the church. So maybe this movement is going to even get bigger. We will have to wait and see. Well, today marks the anniversary of 9/11 here in the U.S. Does Israel consider the Hamas attacks on October 7th their own 9/11, and they've been responding accordingly?
Exactly. You know, when October 7th happened, Wendy, a lot of people just said it really was Israel's 9/11. They feel a direct connection between the two events. I was here for 9/11 back in 2001, and at the time, Israel was going through what's called the Second Intifada with terror attacks that were almost a daily occurrence. So when 9/11 happened, there was a literal immediate bond between Israelis and Americans in the war, the common war on Islamic terror. After 9/11, the U.S. invaded two nations, Afghanistan and Iraq. As Julie said in her report, they went after Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda. On the other hand, we were here for October 7th. So how did Israel respond? They attacked Hamas in Gaza, trying to dismantle their terror infrastructure. By the way, they're still blowing up tunnels. You know, over 400 miles of tunnels. It's already hard to believe how much infrastructure was built in the last 17, 18 years. They're also destroying Hamas headquarters and high-rise building and telling people to leave, as Julie said in her report.
And Chris, the national security expert in Julie's story, says the Israeli strike on Qatar could help end the war in Gaza. How does the Israeli government see it?
Well, first of all, they feel the strike was warranted, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in his speech. They believe it accelerated the end of the war with Hezbollah and Iran and the Houthis when they took out many of their leadership. They believe it's going to demoralize the Hamas leaders that are still left in Gaza. What this does is actually sort of take out the middleman, and the Hamas leaders in Qatar being that middleman. So the leaders in Gaza City that are left, they have everything to lose. They're deep underground, nowhere to hide. So their command centers, as I said, these towers in Gaza City that are being taken down one by one. And so people hope, they pray, this could lead to the end of the war soon and possibly the freedom of all the hostages.
Chris, Israel is telling people to leave Gaza City. Why would Hamas try to block them from getting out?
Well, Wendy, simply they want them as human shields. And they're actually, as Julie said, what the IDF is doing is sending leaflets. They're telling text messages. They're making phone calls. So actually, Hamas is distributing fake leaflets, telling people where not to go. Actually, sometimes shooting people and preventing evacuees from Gaza City. Right now, there is sort of public lands that these people are evacuating to, but Hamas is telling them they can't set up there. And so simply they want to use these residents of Gaza City as human shields. Their deaths can be used as propaganda as Israel. But Hamas is, as you said, we're doing all these messages to prevent them from being in a combat zone. So two diametrically opposed ways of handling the people of Gaza City.
Incredible. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thanks so much for your insights. We always appreciate it and look forward to hearing from you again in the days ahead. Well, still ahead, a new level of persecution against Christians in India. We'll explain how Christians are being targeted in the world's largest democracy right after this. Welcome back. Persecution of Christians in the world's largest democracy, India, is increasing. An amended anti-conversion law in one state is now targeting online evangelism and religious speech. In this week's episode of The Global Lane, Brian Orme, the president and CEO of Global Christian Relief, expresses alarm over this revised law.
It's precedent setting, but it's definitely an act, we believe, by the Hindu Nationalist Party to more strictly target Christians and weaponize these amendments to restrict minority of faith and to, again, lift up the Hindu Nationalist Party.
Well, there must have been a lot of gains online in winning people to Christ. Is it specifically targeting Christians?
It's targeting anyone who speaks out on to convert or share their faith, but these new developments, and I've got the the amendment right here in my hands. The new amendments to it extend online for anyone who basically speaks about their faith or touts one faith over the other, but it's very difficult to pin down exactly what that means. And so it could mean anything from sharing your testimony, sharing a Bible verse, talking about your own faith could be seen as heralding yours better than others, and you could be arrested without any other proof beyond that. And so we have our partners on the ground who are already talking to pastors, and they're scrubbing their YouTube channels, they're pulling down social media, and many of them are even contemplating whether they need to leave the state.
Well, it's normal for Christians to share their faith, and in sharing their faith, you tell the benefits of what Jesus has meant to you as you've been transformed and changed. I mean, is that being targeted?
It is. In fact, the amendment expands language. It makes it more vague, but it includes like any kind of like easy life that you're giving them, any kind of benefits whatsoever. So it could even be like giving a meal to someone who's hungry in the name of Christ, or even just giving a meal at all. But being a Christian organization could put you at risk completely for forced conversion. So there's all of these pieces that are making it very difficult for the Christian community to live, to express their faith, to talk about their what God's doing in their lives without the fear of the repercussions of being arrested and detained. And it is one of those things where in India, through this law, you are guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty.
Well, and India has signed on, I guess it hasn't actually signed the Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, but it is a UN Charter member. It signed the Charter at the founding of the UN. That commits them to human rights. And the amendment bans digital propaganda. So what does that mean? Specifically, what is considered propaganda and who decides what is and isn't propaganda?
That is the whole problem, Gary. And the propaganda could be defined as, again, just sharing your faith. And it really kind of explicitly says touting one faith above the other. And so who's to say, who's the judge of what that looks like?
And they talk about hurting the sentiments of another faith. I mean, obviously, if Hindus are critical of Christianity or Islam, they're not going to be punished, are they?
No, this is definitely going directly towards the minority faiths, especially Christians, and it's forced to stop any kind of growth of the house church. Especially, we're seeing it explode in rural places like Chhattisgarh. And this, again, these types of rules are meant to squash those movements and allow Christians to, again, force them underground, force them to again, like not be in the public space and have a voice. And it's also like this new amendment even gives punishment up until life imprisonment for more severe and sensitive cases. So it's a very serious law, and it has incredible implications. I mean, up to 3 years to 5 years in prison for some, but also up to life for others. And again, who's to decide, what those actual punishments would be? Could be up to the people who are looking at this.
Do you think this is going to, this amendment will be adopted by the other states that already have anti-conversion laws?
I do. I think it fits right into the direction where if they're doing it, setting a precedent, I do believe that the other anti-conversion states will take this on. And again, we'll probably see another level of rising persecution, unfortunately, across India.
And I must remind people that there are 12 states in India that have anti-conversion laws. This is just expanding it in Uttarakhand to say, look, even digital, you can't do things online. So how are Christians responding to this law? Is it deterring them from sharing their faith? And what can be done, Brian, to reverse this digital anti-conversion amendment?
Yeah, it is so difficult because it's touted as a law that's going to help religious freedom, but in reality, what it does is it weaponizes and forces minority religions into silence. And talking to many believers and being in India last year, traveling around and meeting with church leaders, and many of those who have converted from Hindu or converted from the Sikh faith and suffered the consequences, is that I would say this: there's a heart of Christianity that runs so strong that God is doing a work through the church across many regions in India, where people are still bold in their witness, but careful in their practice. And so it might be being very cautious about how you share your faith, but still not being fearful to do it. And again, there's great risk involved in that. There's still churches that are growing, and they have to be very leery about any new person coming in who might be looking to expose or bring a charge against them as well. So I think the church is having to be so much more cautious, so much more aware, but there's still a bold thread that is moving forward to say that these laws will not stop us from worshiping and expressing our faith freely.
Well, Christ said there would be a cost for following him, and this is in the world's largest democracy. Okay, Brian Orme, President and CEO of Global Christian Relief. Thanks for sharing your insights on this new law, Brian. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Also in tonight's episode of The Global Lane, is a new world order rising? A recent meeting of Russian President Putin, India's Prime Minister Modi, and Xi Jinping in China is raising concerns in some Western capitals. And a Gen Z uprising turns bloody over social media restrictions in Nepal. Watch tonight on the CBN News Channel at 8 p.m. Eastern, or you can also see it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Coming up, revivals are back on college campuses. We'll bring you a look at the latest event at the University of Oklahoma when we come back. The season of college revival is gearing back up. Close to 9,000 students gathered Tuesday night at the University of Oklahoma's basketball arena. Their focus, worship and the gospel. It's all part of the National Unitas movement, which started 2 years ago. This fall, students at 7 schools will welcome Unitas to their campuses to share the good news. CBN News has produced a documentary on how the Lord is working in the lives of these students. It's called Revival Generation, and you can stream it or order a DVD at the website, therevivalgeneration.com. I've seen it, and it is definitely worth watching. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen today. You can email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out on social media. Have a great day from all of us here, and God bless.